I love playing Zelda. It's always so much fun. So much to do, so much to explore. It always gets to the point where I really feel like I'm part of the game, like I'm really Link himself. And I mean, it's just like I hope you're feeling positive, because this is the Introverted Positron, and welcome to a brand new episode of Tips Gaming Philosophy. Every time a new game releases for the Zelda series, it's always an extremely exciting time, especially for me. I'm a really big Zelda fan, and every time a new game releases, I am always incredibly excited. And for Breath of the Wild, it was even more so than normal. However, with any new Zelda game comes divisiveness among fans. Questions are asked such as, is this a good Zelda game? Is this better than my favorite Zelda game? Etc, etc. And the interesting thing about Breath of the Wild is that it seems to be more polarizing than your average Zelda game, mostly because of the changes that it makes to the Zelda formula. Because of this, some very interesting questions come up when it comes to Breath of the Wild. In particular, is it a Zelda game, or does it hold up to what makes up a Zelda game? Now, of course, this question is kind of ridiculous. Of course it's a Zelda game, by definition. But nonetheless, that kind of brings up some interesting questions that we need to ask anyway. Part of philosophy is to define and discuss these kinds of ideas. So that's kind of what I want to focus this video on today, and that is to answer the question, what exactly is The Legend of Zelda? Most of you watching probably already know most of this, but to quickly summarize the history of Zelda for the sake of answering the question, Zelda is a fantasy action-adventure series made by Nintendo that originated on the Famicom Disk System in 1987. Created by Shigeru Miyamoto to bring the player a sense of exploration and wonder, the original Legend of Zelda was quite something for its time, and was one of the first open-world games. The game was a success, and now the series boasts 18 mainline entries in its series. As time has gone, the series has evolved to having 3D entries, starting with Ocarina of Time in 1997, and now Breath of the Wild has once again redefined the series by making the game a completely user-based experience, by leaving the order of events mostly open to the player, bringing in a brand new physics engine, and by making every task possible to do in many different ways. Now, because of these changes, that Breath of the Wild being a Zelda game is being questioned. Many of the things that people have thought that make up Zelda are not really there as much. Many of the focuses that were in other games are not there anymore, and everything has just changed a lot. Now, of course, the idea that Breath of the Wild isn't a Zelda game is ridiculous. This isn't really logical, but Breath of the Wild just feels like a Zelda game when you're playing it. A lot of things that you would expect to feel, like the sense of adventure and wonder, is still there. And it was also made by the same team of people who have always been making these games. Yes, there are some additions to the team and stuff like that, but it still is very much a Zelda game. So when we go through this question, we have to go through this with the assumption that Breath of the Wild is in fact a Zelda game. And to go really into it, we really have to start stripping away all of the things that aren't consistent in the series to try to find what really is the core definition of The Legend of Zelda. As the series is called The Legend of Zelda, it seems the obvious place to start is story. Many will tell you that Zelda is a series based in lore, that the games feature epic tales and interesting characters. Although this is certainly true of some games, this is more of a recent development. Both The Legend of Zelda and The Adventure of Link, the two games that started the series, almost have no story. Yes, there is some story in the game manuals, but it is hardly the focus of either game. Even A Link to the Past story is still just good enough to motivate the player. Some would say Ocarina of Time started as epic storytelling, but I would personally say it started either in Majora's Mask or even Wind Waker. Either way, in-depth storytelling is too new to the series to really work as something common to them all, to be a big part of what makes a game a part of the Legend of Zelda franchise. Dungeons are an important part of Zelda. They are in every single game, but are they part of the core of Zelda? Well, even in The Legend of Zelda, they are there. Just as in almost every game, they are the focus of beating the game. They're also hidden all over the map and can be relatively intricate. They have even evolved throughout the series to become more complex and a focus for a game's puzzles and important mechanics. Even Breath of the Wild and Majora's Mask have a focus on dungeons, even though they do both have less dungeon than usually expected from games in this series. Now, of course, there are still some very important characteristics that we need to go over, but there are also some very quick ones that I want to get over with. So I'm just going to do a quick nope or yep. In the case of there being a nope, there will just be like some game titles or covers like put on screen just to kind of indicate what games are an exception to the rule, and just to kind of help to guide you through my point. Either way though, that's just what's going to be happening for the rest of this video. Nope. I know, that seems like a giveaway too. Yep, nope. Now we can get into some of the more subjective features, but yes, a sense of adventure and exploration has been a consistent intent of Zelda games for forever. Every game requires you to explore to find rare items and rupees to purchase items. Even games that are considered more linear, like Skyward Sword and Triforce Heroes, require you to explore to get certain items in the games. An adventure game is far away from requiring an open world to feel like an adventure. Nope. Now, allow me to explain what I mean here. Many games in The Legend of Zelda seek to push boundaries. This can be true whether it's to push a system to its absolute limits, to push the aspects of the series farther like dungeons or other traits we've already discussed, or to simply somehow separate the game from others in the series. I'd say every game does this, whether it's Wind Waker's art style, Twilight Princess's sword skills, Skyward Sword's motion controls, or Breath of the Wild's world. Every single game adds something to the series that is carried over to improve a game at a later point, in one form or another. Even Four Swords was the first Zelda game to have multiplayer that was improved on in Triforce Heroes, and Triforce Heroes was the first game in the series to have an extensive catalog of costumes, which made its way to Breath of the Wild. Every game is definitely a Zelda game, but the developers are not afraid to experiment to keep the games fresh. It's one of the reasons I'm baffled when I do come across Zelda fans who oppose to changes in new games. If you're playing a Zelda game, you should probably be expecting change. Yep, subjective. Yep. Nope. Nope. I'm done. No more of this. There's too much to go through. I don't want to do any more of this. I'm going to leave. I'm going to storm out, or at least that's what I would do, except I don't want to disturb anybody in the house. So I'm just going to awkwardly slide out of frame. In all honesty, showing the amount there is to go through is kind of the whole point of this video. Yes, we've kind of identified some key characteristics, and yes, we've gone through a lot, but ultimately there's so much to go through, and there's a lot of subjectivity when it comes to this. And I mean, what's our definition? It is right, there it is. So Zelda is a game, or a set of games rather, with The Legend of Zelda in the title, that features a character named Link with exploration, dungeons, and puzzles, good music, and has a tendency to evolve. From a technical aspect, I could kind of see that as making sense, but somehow it feels unsatisfying. There's a good reason for that though, and something that is iconic to Zelda that I believe defines the series, and is the reason why all these seemingly unnecessary things exist. And that is a unique player experience. Believe me, I realize this sounds like something every game has. Everyone has an opinion and their own likes and dislikes, so it may seem like this couldn't be something unique to Zelda, but Zelda does something that other games do, but it does it in a unique way. This is through the series' main protagonist, Link. A silent protagonist whose facial features are just vacant enough that the player is able to put their own emotions into it, but has enough emotion so he doesn't seem emotionless. A character that in almost every game in the series you get the name, but has always held the official name Link as a representation of the link between the character and the player. Yes, this isn't the only game that does this, but Zelda is the only series where I have experienced almost every game being a favorite in the series for many fans. Yes, there are a few standouts that more people have as their favorites, but there is no other series I know that gives players an individual enough experience. The favorites are pretty divided out among fans. There are those who love Ocarina of Time, the original Legend of Zelda, the Oracle games, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, A Link to the Past, Skyward Sword, and so on. Even a series like Final Fantasy has only a few games that the fans are really split on which is their favorite. This individual experience, I believe, is because of how Link is handled, but also because of how different each game is. There is something in each game that somebody might find is the best execution of a particular mechanic. The fact that this happens is so cool to me too. I didn't even really appreciate this fact until I became more active in the fan communities myself. What it also means is that what The Legend of Zelda is really going to change depending on the individual, depending on our own experiences with the series, depending on what we individually like from it, and that's honestly really cool. Yes, the technical definition certainly has its place, and it's important to go over these things because it kind of defines where everything comes from, but at the same time, it's cool to just let The Legend of Zelda be a series that is defined by its fans. One that can evolve and change, but also be relevant to the individual. And that's something that's very unique to it. It's something that allows The Legend of Zelda to be something that's important to me, important to others, and it's also just what helps to make it be The Legend of Zelda. Oh, and that's it. That's my tips, gaming philosophy, and what is The Legend of Zelda. So, to those of you who have watched up until this point, I'm eternally grateful. This has been the largest project that I've ever had on this channel. I've put lots of hours into making sure that this is as high quality as I can get it to be, doing things that I've never done before, learning how to be better at editing and recording in general. Now, of course, from here, things will get better. I see the mistakes that I've made, and I'll improve on them. But if you liked this and you want to see more of it, make sure you subscribe. Also, leave a like if you liked the video, comment constructive criticism, or just comment stuff. Make sure it's relevant and not mean-spirited, but I don't really expect that. Now I'm getting off track. But yeah, leave a comment, especially constructive criticism, because that's going to help me to improve what I'm doing here, and I'm working hard to make sure that that's the goal that we're coming to. This is more of the content that I want to have on the channel, and I really, really enjoyed making this, so I'm looking forward to making the next Tips Gaming Philosophy, which I already have planned out. But anyway, again, hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching, and remember to keep positive.